Also, what was not in the news this week was a potential assassination attempt on Vladimir Putin by the Ukraine Secret Service. And I found it very interesting that this wasn't reported in the mainstream media. But then once again, we have to realize that the mainstream media that we know of is controlled in many cases by U.S. agencies such as the CIA and the FBI. And the information that is released is often done through a filter that they have access over. So anything that they would deem to be a threat to U.S. national security, they would withhold this information. But initially, this report came from a German newspaper, Bild, and they were claiming that Ukraine tried to assassinate Putin using a drone loaded with explosives. And they were saying that it was a drone, a kamikaze drone, that was loaded with 17 kilograms of C4 explosives that flies on a 500-mile radius. So apparently the Ukraine Secret Service and intelligence agencies had intel on where Vladimir Putin was supposed to visit. And they launched this assassination plot to send this drone there with these explosives to attempt to blow him up. Now, the kamikaze drone crashed in a village called Voroskogo village, about 12 miles east of the Runevo Industrial Park. And in this assassination attempt of Vladimir Putin, they found these pictures or these images, or they took these pictures or these images of the crash drone. It shows the plastic C4 that was also on board of this plane when it crashed. And it says that intelligence officers received information about Putin's trip to the industrial park last week. So they have been plotting this assassination attempt. And there was a Ukrainian official that sent out a tweet, in some cases validating this on Twitter. He sent out a tweet stating that they were getting closer to Putin. He says, we're getting closer. Putin, everyone saw the news about the drone that flew to Moscow but did not explode. So this drone flew for a reason. Last week, our intelligence officers received information about Putin's trip to the industrial park in Runevo. I even managed to get a map of the trip around the park. This information was indirectly confirmed by Putin's personal correspondent, Zarubin, in his telegram. Now, this right here, speaking of this telegram, should let you know that just because you think that you're using an encrypted messaging system like Telegram, don't believe for a second that they don't still have access or can't get access to the messages that you're sending. Anything that's electronic, no matter what the claims are of its security, that security can be compromised because we don't have access to the servers, the data centers that these servers exist in. So all of that data, even though it is encrypted, can be accessed. So if they were able to get this information from Zarubin in his telegram, then they could easily, if they were tracking you or me or anybody else, they could easily get information that they need through your telegram. But it goes on to say, accordingly, ours launched a kamikaze drone which flew through all of the air defenses of the Russian Federation. Now, this is very interesting that this would make it through the Russian Air Federation, or the Russian air defenses, excuse me. You would think that Russia would have enough security with their air defense to be able to see a drone of this size and shoot it down. It goes on to say, when in the morning it became known about the drone in the Kremlin, a real commotion began. And it goes on to talk about Putin's schedule and how Putin is obsessed with his security, because there have been multiple assassination attempts on his life over the past 7 years, as he has come out publicly and stated himself. Putin, in many cases, carries a detail with him of snipers who will travel with him and actually look out for and shoot down any potential gunman that they see in range of wherever he's located. But the technology now with these drone strikes has become so sophisticated. We saw how they killed General Soleimani in Iran with the drone strike. And another method that they used, we saw when they wanted to assassinate, when Mossad went in and assassinated the Iranian nuclear physicist through the trunk of a car that was crossing or was passing by his vehicle. So they have many very sophisticated ways of pulling off these assassinations. And with the mainstream media now reporting it, is my guess and assumption that they didn't want to give an edge to Putin in the media to make him look like a victim if he were to then retaliate and assassinate Zelensky. If he just comes out and does it and there's no report of this that people can point back to a reference, it will make him look as though he was the aggressor. So I'm not sure if it's that or if it's just propaganda coming from Germany to make people believe that Russia's air defense is not as strong as it possibly is stated to be. But in any case, it didn't make the mainstream news, as reported on Daily Mail and a few other smaller media outlets. I believe the New York Post covered it, and I believe Mirror also covered it, but definitely nothing from the U.S. mainstream media outlets like CNN, CNBC, CBS News, ABC News, New York Times, Washington Post. None of those outlets even attempted to even sniff the surface on this. And this happened, according to the Daily Mail. This was released around 4 days ago.
Well, I don't think the Russians are reporting it either. I don't believe. I was totally unaware of this, and I spent a lot of time listening to alternative sources of news on the war in Ukraine. And granted, some of those are pro-Russian, some are, attempt to be objective in terms of their coverage, but none of them mention anything about this. And quite frankly, that drone doesn't look anything like the high-tech drones that we see the United States flying, or the Turkish TB2 drone, or the the Turkey sent some of those drones to Ethiopia for them to use in their war with the TPLF, and then of course the Iranian drones. I mean, I don't doubt that. We know that they're trying to assassinate this man. Look how many times they tried to kill Dr. Fidel Castro.
This drone is a smaller drone. This model, this UJ-22, and it could be that they use a less sophisticated model to try to navigate through the Air Force's the radar undetected.
Okay, what did you say the name of it was?
This is a UJ-22 drone.
UJ-22. So, okay, I guess we'd have to see who makes that. Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know what they think that would result in, other than Russia using some tactical nuclear weapons to flatten all of Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
I I really don't. I mean, you know, you're absolutely playing with fire. So, uh, but it's interesting. They have been over the past several days. The Russians have been absolutely bombarding Ukraine with cruise missiles, um, uh, bombers. You know, dropping a bunker buster bombs. There was a strike. Where was it? Mykolaiv, that they're reporting on, that they said was a command control center that possibly housed some NATO soldiers or intelligence agents or whatever that may have been killed. But the sources that I listened to said that the Russians have identified the places where all of these weapons have been sent and stored, and that Ukraine is planning to use them for an offensive, and that's why they were unleashed this barrage. They didn't attack the normal infrastructure like normal that they've been, during the winter they were attacking power plants and things like that. This time they apparently went after warehouses and command and control centers. But they had within the last 3 or 4 days they've unleashed a barrage of strikes, including apparently some of their most sophisticated bombers that they haven't used in the past. So that may be related, to this. But I'm like you, because a Ukrainian drone supposedly struck a Russian fuel depot on the Crimea Peninsula this week, and military analysts are saying, how are these drones getting through? Russia's supposed to have perhaps the at least one of the top 2 or 3 air defense systems in the world: United States, United Kingdom, Russia, China. But then again, maybe the technology, because these new weapons, both the cruise missiles and these kamikaze drones, are able to fly at such low altitudes. I mean, they are like at treetop level, and so they may be much more difficult to pick up on radar, right? Than like that, the high level bombers. So there definitely could be some validity to this based on the bombardment that has taken place. I have been expecting, based on the document leaks that we discussed a couple of weeks ago, which said that identified in numbers various personnel from the armed forces of the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Poland. Can't remember if Germany had in there or not, but there were several NATO countries that, according to the document leaks, had armed forces personnel on the ground in Ukraine, helping with different things, primarily, I guess, with intelligence data, from satellites and drones and other things, where they're getting information on, you know, Russian troop locations and movements and all these types of things. And so I've been really expecting the Russians to hit some of these places and try to kill some of these NATO people who are on the ground. And what would be the reaction? Because first of all, these countries, none of these countries have admitted, even though the leaks said that these people were there, they had the actual numbers. I think the United Kingdom had more than the United States had, more personnel there. So how do they react when, you know, 25, you know, NATO personnel are wiped out in one of these bombings? Well, you shouldn't be there, number one, but with the political morons and buffoons that are running these countries, you never know. Because I saw a thing on, I think it was on the Sheer Post just before we came on the air. I think it's from Daniel Ellsberg, and he said that the people on this planet don't know how close this world is to nuclear war. And I definitely think the assassination of somebody like Vladimir Putin, the next man up might say, okay, I'm not, Putin has been, you know, kind of handling these people like, you know, he doesn't want to take out a lot of innocent civilians and whatnot. The next man up might say, bombs, I'm gonna be like Bomber Harris, the famous British Air Force commander who launched the firebombing of Dresden, and, you know, killed thousands of innocent Germans. Didn't care, they were Germans. So the next man up might say, look, all y'all got to go. So this is a very dangerous situation, man. This is a very, 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 very dangerous situation. And there are no sane people on the planet like John F. Kennedy and Nikita Khrushchev and Robert F. Kennedy and Andrei Gromyko and Anatoly Dobrynin that saved the world from nuclear war in 1962 when the U.S. generals and others wanted war. Most of the people in the Kennedy administration wanted war. They wanted war, even though it pushes the world to the brink of nuclear holocaust. What kind of sick? You talk about pathologies. These are some sick people. They are sick. So this is where we are. You know, at least I can say that, you know, that, you know, we went into the streets. We kind of, you know, a lot of us that were in the Black Liberation Movement, we kind of got into the anti-war thing, you know, a little bit later than we probably should have. But at least we did go into the streets and protest what the United States was doing in Vietnam and Cambodia and Laos in the 1970s. But you don't have that happening now.
Brothers and sisters, definitely, if you like this video, hit the thumbs up and also subscribe to our channel for other videos. Share this with your friends and leave your comments down in the comment section. This has been another edition of African Liberation Media Show. And until we see you the next time, Bibi for Hodier.
Bibi for Hodier.